Hello, I'm Vanessa and I run several jewelry courses in London, and today we're going to make some jewelry. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make some silver earrings. To begin with, you will need some silver. I have 2 pieces of silver here. The silver I'm using, the thickness is 0.5 of a millimeter. You could use up to 0.8 of a millimeter. You will also need some cutting shears. This is a metal cutting shears. You will also need some files. These are little needle files. I have a flat file and a half round file to file the edges. You may need a scriber, which is a drawing tool that you could use for drawing your design on metal. And if you wish, you could use a ruler if you would like your silver charms to be a particular size. You will also need a pair of flat nose pliers, a pair of needle nose pliers, and you will need a mallet, a center punch, and a steel block to make a hole, and a drill. I have in the drill a 1 millimeter drill bit. The first step is to measure your charm. The width of my silver is 1 centimeter. So I'm going to make 1 centimeter charm. I place my ruler next to the silver and use the scriber to mark 1 centimeter. I then use the set square to draw the line across. I place the metal, I'm holding the square in front of me. I place the metal behind the square so the metal is away from me. Use my finger to secure the metal onto the set square and use the scriber to draw a straight line. As I'm using cutting shears to cut my metal, the thickest metal to use is 0.8 of a millimeter, but the best thickness is to use 0.5 of a millimeter, which is a fairly thin sheet of metal, and it would allow you to cut slightly more organic shapes. When you use the shears, the metal tends to be quite sharp, and you will need to file the edges with some needle files. You hold the piece in your finger together quite firmly, rest your hand on your table or your bench, and you file along the edges. For my shape, it's just on the square, just the corners are quite sharp. Now I have my pieces of silver, and you need to decide now where you're going to put the holes to hang them. I'm going to hang them so that they hang like a triangle. And before I could drill them, I need to make a little mark so that I have the mark to guide the drill bit into the correct place. I position the center punch. This you can purchase at a hardware store, and this is a leather mallet. You could use any hammer, a DIY hammer would be fine, but don't apply too much pressure. Just hammer it lightly once, just enough to make a little mark. Bring down the drill bit to guide the drill to where my hole is before I turn on the machine, so I know that it's in the correct place. I turn on the machine, make the hole, and turn off. Now, when I've used the cutting shears, it bent the edges of the metal a little bit, so I'm going to straighten them out by hammering on a steel block. Whenever you're hammering metal, you always want to hammer on a steel block with a leather mallet. If you use a metal hammer, it will mark silver. Now I'm going to show you how to make silver earring hooks. What you will need: some pliers. You need a flat nose pliers, needle nose pliers, side cutters for cutting your wire, and round nose pliers. You also need a length of wire. For this particular video, I'm going to use some silver-plated wire. But if you're making actual earring hooks, you will need hard silver wire, and the best thickness is 0.8 of a millimeter. So I will be using silver-plated wire. You will need a needle file, a flat needle file, and a little ruler to measure the length. The first hook we're going to make are these. It's a simple hook, which you can also purchase, but it's very easy to make yourself. The first step is you measure your wire. I'm going to cut my wire to 5 centimeters in length. As it's going to be earring hooks, you want the ends to be fairly dull. And when you cut them with these cutters, they end up being quite sharp. So you need to file the end with your needle file. Hold the wire in your hand and apply a reasonable amount of pressure with the file along the ends. And what you're aiming for is to have a flat end. Use your round nose pliers and you make the little circle. This little loop here is what you will be using to hang whatever you're hanging from your earrings, silver charms or beads. You position the wire in between the nose of the pliers, and you want the wire to be held at the very end. And the best way to check that is you rub your fingers along the other side of the pliers and you just about feel the end. Then you use your thumb to press the wire around the nose of the pliers so that you end up with that shape. You repeat the process. If you're making a pair, you repeat the process on the other wire. Now I'm going to make a loop in the middle. So I position the wire between the nose of the pliers so that the middle of the wire is being held with the pliers. And this little loop here that I made is facing up. Now I'm going to bend this wire down, pull it down. It might twist as you're doing it, but you can always straighten it out with a pair of pliers afterwards. And mine twisted a little bit, so I'll do the same with the other ones. So, and then you take either your flat nose pliers or the round nose pliers and you turn the end out. Now this is your stopper. And this little nick at the bottom here will prevent the earrings from coming out of your ear. Now that you've made your silver charms and you have your earring hooks, you put them together to make a pair of silver earrings. You use your flat nose pliers to open the loop, and to open the loop, you hold the loop. It's best to hold the loop here at the largest part, and then you open the little loop and you push it away from you. You thread in your little charm and you close the loop. Ensure that you don't have the gap, and to avoid having a gap, you could push the wire towards push the loop towards that wire, and do the same with the other side. That's how you make the silver pair of earrings.